Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you like this episode, please remember to hit the like button and leave a comment or two, then subscribe and click on the bell to receive notifications of whenever we release new videos. Also, please remember to share them to your social media.
Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Today's episode takes us to the rugged, sun-baked landscapes of New Mexico, a state renowned for its dramatic contrasts, where arid desert meets forested highlands. The village of Cleveland sits at a little over 7,000 feet in elevation, but the mountains surrounding it towered almost 13,000 feet high. It is surrounded by the Pecos Wilderness, of nearly 250,000 acres of pristine forests. Mechanized vehicles, including bicycles, are prohibited in this area, but hunting, fishing, and camping are permitted. The climate here is typically warm and dry during the day, with cool nights that can quickly become chilly, a reminder that even in the Southwest, nature's extremes are never far away. Uninterrupted forests of juniper, ponderosa, and pinyon pine jut over New Mexico sagebrush, Apache plume, and rabbit brush along the forest floor. When it comes to important plants in the area, berry bushes like chokecherry, elderberry, and wild blackberry provide key nutrients to animals, especially black bears. In an arid mountain environment, there are factors ranging from precipitation amounts to temperature variations that can cause unexpected changes in the availability of these key food sources. Thousands of elk, deer, and antelope meander the forests and prairies of the mountains, and many rely on overlapping food sources. Bobcats, coyotes, cougars, and black bears must follow their food sources, which can change based on environmental conditions. In the summer of 2001, wild berry crops had been devastated by a late spring frost and a drought. Given their food sources in the mountains had all but disappeared, black bears began following their noses into small towns. Rural homeowners as well as residents in town began reporting the presence of bears to local police, hindering their ability to respond to crime reports. On one particularly busy stretch, over 35 bear reports were phoned in over 3 days. Town residents began seeing bears jumping into dumpsters to feast upon waste food, as well as raiding private fruit orchards. A sense of fear began setting in with many residents. They began requesting rubber bullets from fish and game officers and packing firearms and flashlights while venturing around their property at night. Local farmers and ranchers began to report losses to their herds, and parents felt nervous when their children played outside. The pressure bears felt to survive was coming to a head among human populations, and it would end in tragedy that may have been preventable. In the early morning hours of August 18, 2001, 93-year-old widower Adelia Maestras Trujillo was sleeping in her generational home on the outskirts of Cleveland. She'd lost her husband back in 1989 and had spent her time volunteering at elementary schools, where the kids called her Grandma. She was spunky and stubbornly held to traditional values and ways. Her small adobe home was roofed with tin and provided her a place to cook her tamales and beans over a wood stove, just the way her ancestors had. Living alone in a remote part of New Mexico, Adelia was aware of the natural rhythms and occasional dangers of the wild. Yet, like many longtime residents, she'd grown accustomed to sharing her surroundings with the native wildlife, even when that meant the occasional unexpected visitor. Unfortunately, on that fateful day, in August 2001, her familiarity with the land would not be enough to protect her from a force as ancient as nature itself. As the great-grandmother peacefully slept, a desperate black bear had discovered her home. Likely guided by the sense of the food she prepared, the bear had found the boldness to access Adelia's porch and sniff the aroma of drying plums through the closed glass window of her kitchen. Still asleep in an adjacent bedroom, Adelia's slumber was disrupted by the sound of breaking glass in her kitchen. She could hear the screen ripping as it was pushed through the broken glass window. Slowly pulling herself to her feet, the aged woman crept into her kitchen to investigate what was going on. Flipping on the kitchen light illuminated the shadows and revealed a large black bear standing in the kitchen. The expression of the surprised bear likely mirrored the expression on the elderly woman's face as the two stared at each other. Adelia's son lived next door and woke up in the morning after a peaceful night's rest. He hadn't heard anything unusual that night, but did notice a buzz in the air that was strange. He visited his mother's home daily and enjoyed her home-cooked food as much as possible, so he put his shoes on to do so once again. After leaving his home, he approached his mother's house and could see the broken window from the porch. Entering the door, he was horrified to see her home in a chaotic mess, with food items and containers tossed in an unusual and disorganized scene. He found his mother's bloody body lying in her kitchen and notified authorities immediately. New Mexico game wardens and police converged on Adelia's home. They knew they had to eliminate the threat this bear posed to the public before it could claim another victim. Tracking dogs were brought in to follow its scent trail, and after a short pursuit, the bear was shot and killed only 400 yards from Adelia's home. The bear's carcass was examined, and it was determined to be a 250-pound, 4-year-old healthy male. Contents of the bear's stomach showed it had consumed grasses before invading Adelia's home, and her flesh was also found there. The bear had not consumed trash or any other human-sourced foods. As for the bear's motives for killing Adelia and invading her home, hunger was believed to be the main contributing factor. There were no animals cached near her home that the bear could have been defending, and no cubs were reported at the attack scene. Speaking of cubs, our Cub Tier membership on Patreon, linked below, will give you ad-free early access to our episodes, and the $3 per month goes a long way in helping me continue to produce educational and entertaining content like this. New Mexico is home to a modest but significant population of black bears, estimated at 5,000 to 6,000 bears. They are primarily concentrated in forested mountainous regions and mixed woodland areas. While overall bear densities in the state are lower than in northern regions, the interface between human settlements and wild lands in rural areas can lead to unexpected encounters. The regions of New Mexico that border wild habitats, particularly in the foothills and lower mountain ranges, can serve as corridors for wildlife movement. Homes located in these transitional zones may inadvertently offer food sources or shelter that attracts bears. The attack on Adelia Maestras Trujillo remains one of the few recorded instances where a bear intrusion into a residence led to a fatal confrontation, underscoring the unpredictable and potentially dangerous behavior of these animals when their natural foraging patterns are disrupted. Her death was the most recent in at least 25 years in the state to that point. After reviewing the facts surrounding this episode, I'm left with a few questions for you. Would a pursuit-only hound season in the spring help haze bears away from rural homes and towns? Are changing environmental conditions, such as drought or habitat fragmentation, driving bears closer to human dwellings in search of food? And how can communities better prepare for such eventualities? As rural communities continue to interface with wild habitats, what long-term strategies can be implemented to ensure that natural behaviors of wildlife do not lead to catastrophic outcomes for those who call these regions home? I will gladly read and reply to your thoughts, so post them in the comments section below, and let's talk about it.
Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider clicking on the like button and clicking on the bell icon. We'll help you know when we post our new episodes. Posting our video links to your social media profiles furthers awareness, and it's fun. We slashed our prices in our merch store, linked below, so check out the bargains there while you shop. As a member of our human community, remember to adventure bravely and be careful out there, especially in bear country.